We've been going through facial interfaces, fans that include a facial interface, and now we're gonna open up this one, which we actually tried before, but it was the only facial interface without the fan. Let's check this out. So here we are once again opening the X3 ACF, although this time it better include a freaking fan. It's weird that they sell this interface without the fan. Like, they don't seem to sell the fan separately, so you'd think that there's not really much of a need for this facial interface. It's also very hard to get out of the box, apparently. Well, that part feels new, but this part feels very familiar. I actually liked the facial interface before. I liked the material they used on it, the pleather style. This feature right here, where the side knobs would turn and it actually opens it up for people with glasses or without, I thought all that was cool. And I'd said the whole video, I was like, it looks like there's a spot for a fan here. I want to rip the damn thing apart at this point and verify that these are just tubes. Well, now we have said fan. Looks like a little spaceship here. It's got arrows on top to show you which way the air is flowing. And so that's the neat idea about this, is you're supposed to be able to decide, do you want the air flowing out or flowing in? Now, it's nice and magnetic. The magnet snaps in place. I will say though, one thing that I don't like as much is the magnet hooks it on, makes you feel like, oh, it's there, but it's not really mounting inside. So see how there's this lip right here that looks like something should like slide on from the side or something? These go over it, but they don't cover that lip. It's almost like that lip shouldn't be there, because then they'd snap in place and snap over it. Yeah, the magnet kind of tricks you into thinking you should just be able to magnet it right on, but what you have to do is you have to kind of put it over that lip and then work it down. It's not the easiest fit that way. Honestly, it won't come back off very easily. So I get why they did that, but I kind of wish that they had just gotten rid of this top lip, because then it would just magnet in place instead of you having to finagle it, which feels like if it were on your head, it would be very hard to do. Okay, so right now I've got it on there properly, not just magneted in place. Setting 1, turns on the cute little green light bulb. Boy, setting 1 is so quiet, you'd hardly even know it's on. Setting 2, you can feel it, you can hear it better. So it seems to be just a low and high, because if you remember the Hiblox fan, it had the 1 and 2 setting as well, but 1 went back and forth between low and high, and it would ramp up and down, where this one seems like 1 is just low. I don't like that the nose guard is being kind of annoying on this one right out the gate. My last one wasn't doing that, so. The pleather's nice. It's definitely not perfectly form-fitting to my face like I'm used to now with my fully custom facial interface. Like, there's some gap right here where I don't feel it giving me any pressure at all. But let's put it on this headset so we can kind of feel it side by side. If you're new here or you haven't been hanging out lately, you know that currently I am rocking a fan on my main setup, but the fan is actually built into the head strap here. This S3 Pro from BoboVR has a fan built in, 0 to 100 levels of settings to incorporate that fan, and the battery powers it directly, so you don't have to think about charging that separately, which is always a complication with these kinds of fans, because now you need to charge your headset, you need to charge this. If you have a battery, you need to charge your battery. It's just a lot of extra stuff. Well, it looks like it's gonna be hard to install this without taking it off first. Might just be hard to install this, period. I do remember that with the head strap, we were having to really crank it up to make room. Once again, I'm gonna say the same thing I said last time. The gray was a weird choice because a facial interface is black, Quest is black and white, why not? Just make it that way. Boy, those magnets would really fool you into thinking that's what you have to do. Now, they did a little better job than Hiblox right here. Look at how much the Hiblox one sticks out. The fans on this one still stick out, but at least they made this front part back to where it matches a little better. You don't have quite as much sticky outiness, probably a little less risk of hitting it, but also it just looks a little better. Still looks real weird though, I will say. Wow. I'm getting a lot of light bleed on this one. I mean, I could practically even see you out there, but like, there's a good space. I mean, I can get a pinky in here pretty easily on the sides. I can adjust the pad around a little bit and try and make that better, but out of the box, there's just terrible light gap there. I'm gonna see if I can get this thing on low and high while I'm inside the headset without much difficulty. So up here, it's pretty easy to find this because it sticks up so high. And low, you feel it. I can feel it blowing into my eyes right now. It's light, it's gentle. High, you're gonna notice a lot more, you feel it more and it's louder. If I wanted to flip this mid-game, I could. It makes a lot more noise on high when you have it facing out because it's having to suck a lot harder. High in general is just a little noisy, I will say. If you know what you're doing, you can eventually get used to how this hooks in and you can take it on and off yourself, but it's not, you know, that magnet will trick you into thinking you just go like that and move on, and it'll even kind of stay, but not well. Some strange little decisions with this fan, I must say. See if there's anything else this can teach us before we jump into testing. 500 milliamp hour, pretty standard with fans like these. Advertises the same about 3.5 hours in first gear, they call it, which is kind of confusing, but first gear, 3.5 hours, second gear, 2.5 hours. You can run a cable from the Quest up to it to power it. Of course, you don't want to do that with how short the battery life is on the Quest already. You're gonna just destroy it. They call it comfort mode and sport mode. Oh, wait, whoa. Hold up.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
It's gonna get a little complicated here. Comfort mode is when it's exhausting inward on number 1. Sport mode is when it's inward on 2. Winter mode is when it's exhausting on 1 outward. And summer, oh my gosh, this is too confusing. Okay, there's 4 different modes that they name, but basically you've got in, out, 1 and 2. Really. I guess their idea is that some of them are like, if you're sweating, you want to get that air out to keep it from fogging up the lenses, but if you're hot, you want to blow the air in to cool you off. Interesting choices. Okay, I think we're at the point it's time to go away for a while, do some testing, play different kinds of games, settings, battery, all that stuff. So we'll be back. All right, after some days and time spent, we are back to talk about this fan versus the other fans, facial interfaces, all that jazz. We start with the cons, you know me. First con, this thing is loud. Like, it's noticeably loud. Once you really get to gaming, even if you have the game turned up and stuff, if you have this on too, it's making a lot of noise when you're in game. I got pretty good at snapping it on and off, as you can see. It wasn't much of a struggle anymore. But inside the headset, even the first day we were testing and John was over here, he's like, I can really hear that. One thing, I felt like it wasn't exactly consistent on the volume either. Depended on how you're using it, facing in and out, but there were times where I was like, that is noticeably distracting and annoying, and it was really bothering me. 2, this facial interface, I feel very shocked. I don't know if it's because I've been spending so much time with this completely custom facial interface, because when we first got this one, I felt like I liked it, and I don't know if they make more than one shape of these or what, but this one, I messed around with the padding, tried to get it to fit to my face, and I really did not care for how it felt this time around. It just does not fit my face. And then as I kept trying to pull these off to mess with it, this Velcro kept coming off. So I have to pull this back and try to push it down. And then I kept finding myself, it just kept coming up, which made me feel like the longevity of this pad is just not gonna be there. I mean, I could go through all the trouble of actually super gluing this in place, but you didn't pay 30 or 40 bucks, depending on where you got this, to have to super glue something in place. But what I was trying to do is I was trying to get the pad to where it would land a little bit better, a little happier on my face. And ultimately what it felt like, I just needed a thicker pad so that it would conform a little better to my face. I still love the adjustability of these side knobs. They feel really solid. I love that they let you flip the fan around which way you want to. I think that's a really cool feature, because what'll happen if you have it blowing in all the time, sometimes it'll really dry out your eyes, but you don't want to completely turn it off. You still want some airflow to help keep your headset from fogging. You could just turn it around and then it didn't really bug your eyes. It kept it moving. I found most of the time what I ended up doing was blowing in on number 1. I wanted the airflow number 2, but the noise was too much for me. It bothered me too much. But ultimately, I mean, if you can see, this just does not hit the sides of my face at all. So what it ends up doing is it puts all the pressure on your cheekbones and on your forehead, where if I show you, like, even the stock Quest facial interface does a much better job. It's touching on the sides. It's actually touching so much on the sides at the top. Feels different, and then here it is without the silicone. Same thing, like, this fits my face decently well. This one's scratchy because the pad on it doesn't feel great without it. And then of course you got my fully custom facial interface that's so custom it'll stay on my face even without me holding it. Like, maybe I've gotten too used to this, but ultimately I found this to not be comfortable, very noisy. The price was better than others out there, but this whole magnet thing too really bothered me. I really wish they'd found a way where it would just snap on and stay, because people had complained in the comments. They said that they actually got this fan. They were like, oh, I ended up having to glue mine in or something so it just wouldn't stay. You shouldn't have to do that anyways, but it's this weird way they made it mount on. I mean, the way it looks, I'd almost rather have you slide the whole thing in from the side and have it hook on, because this motion, although I got used to it, that's not a normal motion you'd have to do when you're like in VR. And if you have a halo strap, it's harder because then the halo's kind of up here and you're having to work around that. So surprise, surprise, I didn't love this. After all, I really thought when I just tested the interface that once we got the fan, I would like it a little better. Same with Hiblox. The Hiblox one, does a decent job, but it sticks out too far. There was enough cons that I didn't love that. So for now, I'm still sticking to my custom oblique facial interface with the S3 Pro, which has a fan on it, which luckily this fan is enough that I can live without all of that for now. But once they make an edition of this with some vents on it and the fan can even blow through those vents, I think I'll be really happy with all of that setup. For those of you wondering about the MetaQuest charging dock with this facial interface, I will say it's finicky. If you get it in there just right, you can usually get it to work, but sometimes you'll come back and it's shut off like that, or you'll get it to stay just right and it'll be fine, it'll sit up and charge. It's not very happy. Ultimately, if you really wanted it to be a part of this charging dock, well, apparently you hate me now, doc. Okay, well, I have gotten it to work a few times, but I'm gonna declare that because of right now's battle, it's really not wanting to work with it. It's kind of a no, but what do you think? Do you have a fan? Are you rocking the S3 Pro with its fan? Do you want one of the external fans that you also have to charge? Because that is another factor to think about. I'm still not against finding a facial interface that has a quality fan for those extra sweaty times, those play sessions. With this one, I feel like it's a little less necessary than it's ever been. And I've really been enjoying the fact that this is simplified of now I just have a strap, I just have a battery, and I can run the whole thing as I want to. It's not another thing that I had to charge, which I dealt with for basically the entire life of the Quest 2. But let me know in the comments what you think about it. I'd love to discuss this with you further, but thank you once again for being here, and I'll see you in another reality.